Displaced authenticity from what you described is the silencing of one's spirit, either by mental overload into psych breakdown and pathological paralysis, as characterized by disassociation from reality and people, internalizing what people say about you, confined within their projections, or the embodiment of introduced propaganda, where moral and psychological misconduct is normalized, which you described as superficiality and spiritual irrationality. When I piece together this information, combined with your input on conscience number 1 and 2, you share that one's environment is largely responsible for the psych dysfunction of those who are impacted. You concluded that both of these unaligned trajectories are symptomatic from having an unrooted heart. Can you elaborate?
As I've already shared, sustained naivety and brain conditions can alter a person's psyche. An unrooted heart, however, is a sustained state of being by one's free will. Loving God, a person will do everything to get straight with Him. If the focus is on peripherals of earth, the person may make choices that push them farther from God. And if influences misrepresent morality or engage in behaviors that sabotage the heart or corrupt the brain, I believe only the wounded souls who truly love God will escape the cycle of conscience number 1 and 2. So how does an unrooted heart develop? Compare these environments. In a person's most vulnerable state is given a choice to be given love, affection, understanding, and support through life challenges, working through emotions, handicaps, and structural expectations. Or to be yelled at, criticized, beaten, detained, and humiliated into a broken spirit of pathological submission. The unrooted heart can either withdraw from reality as a pacifist or can gravitate to people who do offer support. With the imposition of an unrooted heart, there is no home where threats are perceived. Any confrontations that appear negative may trigger trauma. Meanwhile, the person's character may deteriorate if misconduct is accepted and normalized in the new environment, where influences are constantly in good spirit and supportive regardless if laws are broken or people are hurt. As you can see, the dangerous path of an unrooted heart. How important it is to feel safe and welcomed in a healthy Christian environment, psychologically and morally aligned, so that people are drawn to God instead of repulsed by misalignment. This concludes the first example of an unrooted heart, where the expression of authenticity and character integrity is compromised in the presence of unaligned influences. Another example of an unrooted heart is when a person rejects God or His laws. If a person is attached to sin, the heart is rooted in elements that lead to condemnation, as characterized by unhealthy desires, habits, and obsessions. When a person pathologically chases things that are against Christian values, it is by personal choice to be set apart from community. Until the heart is set straight, the person constructs their own spiritual demise. And when Christians fulfill their role, can help those with unrooted heart get set straight by connecting and evangelizing. Lastly, the pathology of one with an unrooted heart may be legalistic about fulfilling religious obligations. Meanwhile, the heart may be far from God. This is where the term love God with your whole heart, mind, and strength is determined as self-evident. Of all the impositions I've listed, I believe the most detrimental is living in the state of mind that one doesn't belong anywhere. That if one doesn't curate impression of self perfectly, then it's better to avoid interacting with people altogether. That unless one is fully confident in their vocation, then they must recede into not attempting. For example, a woman compares herself to elements of status quo standards on attractive appearances. More effort is put into measuring up visually instead of developing internally into good character. If she doesn't feel attractive, then she withdraws from community. Or a man that also compares himself to popular standards, puts his identity in his money, status, or hobbies. If he doesn't feel consistently on top, then he withdraws from community. When you see this pattern as normal, it can only mean that status quo propaganda and behaviors have influenced people into embodying traits of an unrooted heart. Therefore, a person who understands Scripture and is rooted in love for God would be able to discern the difference between corrupt ideologies and moral responsibility, loving neighbor through their journey versus bias and selective dignity. All of the states of imposition I shared to now are all examples of internal dispositions, can be interpreted as malfunctions in character because of unstable wiring in the psyche, either by health, emotional states, intellectual conditions, environment projections, or willful misdirections. I now turn these immersions over to you to get psychological and moral perspective.